This is Algebra lesson 9-5, factoring trinomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c. Let's remember what factors are. This is probably a good reminder for most of us because if you haven't been playing around with things, you kind of forget what some of these things mean. So if we're going to list the factors of a number, like 24. If I was going to list the factors, I like to list them kind of interesting, like I think of all the numbers that multiply together to get 24, like 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. So all the factors are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24. I will read them down this way and then read them back up this way. It's the easiest way for me to think of all the factors of a number. All the factors of 12, 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. I know I'm done because 3 and 4 are close to each other, so all the factors are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 12. For 54, there's a lot of factors of 54. Well, at least more factors than there are to 12. There's 1 times 54, 2 times 27, 3, I know 54 is easy like 3 because 5 plus 4 is 9. 3 times, I'm thinking 18. 3 times 18. 4 doesn't go into 54. 5 doesn't go into 54. 6 does. 6 times 9. 7 doesn't. 8 doesn't, but 9 does. So all my factors are 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 18, 27, and 54. The factors of 15, let's see here. That's 1 times 15. And 3 times 5, and that is it. So 1, 3, 5, and 15. So why did I have you remember how to do factors? Because when you factor something, you have a trinomial like 3x or like x squared plus 7x plus 9. When you go to factor a trinomial, you have to be able to do the factors of things. Factoring is the reverse of multiplying. It's dividing something. Okay, so to factor a trinomial in the form of x squared plus bx plus c, you must do two things. You have to find two numbers whose product is c, hence the factors, and the same two numbers must have a sum of b. And you might go, what do you mean, Mrs. Schumann? Well, simply put, okay, let's look at a couple of examples. If I needed you to factor x squared plus 8x plus 12, okay, this is b, 8 is b, and 12 is c, because in this formula, x squared plus bx plus c, the number in front of the x in the middle, that's your b term, and the number at the end, your constant, that's your c term. So I need two numbers whose product is 12, product equals 12, but sum equals 8. So I'm going to think of all the ways that I can get 12. Right, like 1 times 12, and 2 times 6, and I'm just going to write those down right now. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Well, 1 plus 12 equals 13. 2 plus 3 equals 5. 3 plus 4 equals 7. And you're looking at me going, how am I supposed to find something for the middle terms equal, right? Oops. Let's step back here a second. 2 times 3 is 6, not 12. There's our problem right there. See, if you don't get factors right, you can't possibly get this right. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. 2 plus 6 equals 8. There we go. There's my answers. And 3 plus 4 here equals 7. I need two numbers whose product is 12, but sum is 8. That's this right here, isn't it? Since I know x squared can be divided into x times x, because x times x is x squared, I now just need to fit my numbers in. They're both positive. Oops, not 2 and 6. I put plus 2 here, plus 6 here, or plus 6 where the 2 is and 2 where the 6 is. And this is the factorization of x squared plus 8x plus 12. If I was to multiply this back together, I would come right back to this number up there. I would get x squared plus 8x plus 12. So the factor, and when you factor it, you're going to factor it into two parentheses, such that you have a product of the last term and a sum of the middle term. Let's look at number 2. We need a product of 16, but a sum of negative 10. Right? So I think of the numbers that multiply together to give me 16. Right? Positive 16 would be 1 times 10. But I'm looking at this going, wait a second. If I have two positive numbers and I'm going to multiply them together, then I will get a positive answer. But if I add them together, I will always get a positive. So how do I get two numbers when I multiply them together that they would add together to get a negative number? They both have to be negative. Because negative 1 times negative 10 gives me positive. Negative 1 times negative 16 gives me positive 16. And negative 1 plus negative 16 gives me negative 17. So I know that's not the answer. I'm going to move this a little bit to the left. I think of negative 2 times negative 8. Negative 2 times negative 8 is positive 16. But negative 2 plus negative 8 equals negative 10. That's what I need, isn't it? So these must be my numbers right here, negative 2 and negative 8. So we'll have x, and a negative 2 and a negative 8. And I have factored x squared minus 10x plus 16. Let's look at another one. A squared plus 13a plus 30. I need two numbers whose product is 30, sum is 13. Right? Everything's positive, so everything here will be positive. So I might say 1 times 30, and 1 plus 30 is 31. 2 times 15, 2 plus 15 is 17, I'm getting closer. 3 times 10, 3 plus 10 equals 13. So my numbers have to be 3 and 10. So A, it's an A now, not an X, an A plus 3 plus 10, or A plus 10 times A plus 3. Remember, multiplication is commutative. The order of the parentheses doesn't matter. Eventually, you'll get to the point where you can go straight from this into this without having to show all of the product and sums. Okay, number 4. I need a product of 36 and a sum of negative 15. Right? Product of 36, sum of negative 15. All right, so if my sum is negative but my product is positive, again, both my factors have to be negative. So negative 1 times negative 36, negative 1 plus negative 36, negative 37, that's not too close. Negative 2 times negative 18, negative 2 plus negative 18 is negative 20, getting closer. Negative 3 times negative 12, negative 3 plus negative 12 is negative 15. Aha, there's my number right there. So I need Q minus 3 times Q minus 12. I'm done. Eventually, you'll get really, really quick at these. You'll be able to factor these quite quickly. But there's little things you need to learn. All right, let's take another one. X squared plus 13x minus 48. I need a product of negative 48 and a sum of positive 13. Okay, so if my product is negative but my sum is positive, that means one of my factors has to be negative and one of my factors has to be positive, and the larger number needs to be positive if I'm going to have a positive sum. Since my sum is positive, the larger factor has to be negative. Has to be positive. So I'm thinking of this like, I can think of negative 1 times 48. That will give me negative 1 plus 48, which gives me 47. Way off. But as you can clearly see, in order for my product to be negative, one of the two numbers has to be negative. But in order for my sum to be positive, the larger of the two factors has to be the positive number. So, negative 2 times 24. Okay, negative 2 plus 24 is positive 22. That doesn't work. Negative 3 times 16. Negative 3 plus 16. Aha, is positive 13. There we go. I found my numbers. X, X, negative 3, positive 16. And I'm done. If you think logically, you can save yourself a lot of guess and check. Because here I knew that my smaller number had to be the negative number and my larger number had to be the positive number. If I just started willy-nilly guessing at numbers, you're going to miss the number that you need. Let's look at number 6, n squared minus 5n minus 24. I need a product of negative 24 with a sum of negative 5. Both numbers are negative. So in order to get a negative product, one number has to be negative, one number has to be positive. In order for my sum to be negative, my larger of my two factors has to be the negative number. So if I go, my larger of my two, so positive 1 times negative 24. Okay. 1 times negative 24. 1 minus 24, that's negative 23. 2 times negative 12. 2 minus 12 is negative 10. Okay. 3 times negative 8. 3 minus 8 is negative 5. There we go. There's my two numbers. So I know I need n plus 3 times n minus 8. You can change the order of the parentheses, but you cannot change the numbers within the parentheses. There is a difference between n plus 3 times n minus 8 versus n minus 8 times n plus 3. Okay, if this is fine. This means exactly the same thing, but you can't go like this. This right here, the n plus 8 times n minus 3, will get you n squared plus 5n minus 24 instead of minus 5n. So you can't change the order within the parentheses. You can change the order of the parentheses. So be careful with that. Okay? You can change the order of the parentheses. You can't change the order within the parentheses. Let's look at a few more. Lots and lots of practice is good in this case because this is a very important concept. And because what happens when I start doing things like this? Oh, look, I added variables to both ends. Don't let that mess you up. Because really all I'm doing now is when I do my two parentheses, I have a D here and a D here, and I'm going to end with a G here and a G here, and then I'm going to have some numbers. So I still just need to look at the numbers, the negative 60 and the positive 17. I need a product of negative 60. Product of negative 60 and a sum of 17. Okay. Since my sum is positive, my larger of my two factors has to be positive. So I can do negative 1 times 60. That's going to be negative 1 plus 60 is 59. Negative 2 times 30. Negative 2 plus 30 is 28. Negative 3 times 20. Negative 3 plus 20 is 17. There we go. Found my numbers. So now I know that it's going to be D minus 3G, D plus 20G. If you have variables at the ends, just split them up evenly. D, G, D, G. There you go. There's your answer. U squared minus 3UV minus 10V squared. So I need a product of negative 10 and a sum of negative 3. Means the larger of my two factors has to be negative. So I'm thinking, okay, if I have the larger of my two factors, 1 times negative 10, so we have 1 minus 10, which is negative 9. 2 times negative 5, 2 minus 5 is negative 3, there we go. So we have U plus 2V, don't forget your V in there, U minus 5V, and you're done. So it's not hard, you just need to figure out how you're going to do them. And eventually you can just do them with going to the straight product and sum. Okay, if I look at the x squared plus 11xy plus 24y squared, I need a product of 24 and a sum of 11. I'm thinking 8 and 3. Right off the top of my head, I'm thinking, okay, 8 times 3. 8 plus 3 equals 11, doesn't it? Okay, so I know x plus 8y, x plus 3. And you can skip all the extra products and sums it. You can look at it and figure it out that way. You do 10 on your own. It's a good practice for you. Check to make sure you have it in your notes. That's factoring trinomials in the form of x squared plus bx plus c.